how long did that actual test, the $10,000 plus test, take you guys to run? I'm gonna guess months. Yeah. Um,
Fortunately, the service we used is really fast. It's a number of days, but the planning that went into it because of the cost was multiple rounds and then
mhm.
the analysis afterwards. So the survey itself was pretty fast. What if you could run 10 a day for free? I mean, that's the alternative.
Yeah.
That's the scale of the alternative, right?
Hello and welcome to Not Replaced Yet. My name is Nick Pushkar and I'm here with my brother Jesse. Say hello, Jesse.
Hey everyone, if this is your first time joining us, Nick and I have spent the last 30 years being tech nerds, the last 20 years being tech professionals, and the last 5 years building an AI focused agency working with some of the biggest brands around the globe. And now we're here to help you on your AI journey.
Today's show is part 2 of our AI Masterclass in marketing. You will still get tons of value if you missed part 1, but we definitely recommend that you check that one out. Testing is at the core of marketing, and that's what today's episode is all about. Thanks to AI, we have entered the era of synthetic testing. Basically, using AI to test your marketing efforts before spending real money on real people. We're going to show you how to replace expensive surveys with AI-powered insight that cost pennies, and when you can actually trust those results. Jesse, why don't you give the fine people a bit more color on what exactly synthetic testing is?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think we have to talk about just testing in general, not synthetic testing. There's surveys and focus groups. There's A/B testing of all manner, right? Creative testing, message testing, etc. And a synthetic test is just what it sounds like. It's a simulated test that aims to mimic the real world variant that would be just exercised on humans. And so that's what these LLMs, these AI tools are great at, is simulating reality, and we can tune them to simulate testing for our own benefit.
You are amazing. Seriously, we appreciate you so much for watching our content. Jesse and I are working tirelessly to create as much value as possible for you. In return, we have a very simple ask. If you take one action today, think of 5 people in your life who could level up from creative AI insights and share this with them. Nothing propels us forward more than your share. And while you're at it, hit subscribe so you never miss the next drop. Got a question, aha moment, or spot something we glossed over? Leave a comment. We read every single one and we love learning alongside you. And if this video helped you out, tap like. It's a tiny click that tells the algorithm and us to keep the good stuff coming. Thank you so much. Let's get back to it. So the obvious question arises, how accurate are these tests? In your experience, what are you seeing?
Yeah, it is the right question to ask. And I've talked to a lot of people who have worked on moving part of their test budget into a synthetic operation. The answer is it depends on how anchored to real world data your synthetic tests are. So we're going to be using fake data for these tutorials, but I promise we're going to come back in a very near term episode and talk all about anchoring to real world data so that people who want to implement this in their actual production workflows have that answer at their disposal as well.
So like you said, there are many different types of tests you can run. There are surveys, there's UX testing, there's A/B testing for all different types of things. So could you give us a bit of a rundown on what a real world cost, a non-synthetic test might actually be in your experience?
Sure. So, past lives, we've run many surveys at the nonfiction agency and then in my agency jobs before that. Plenty of focus groups, surveys, user experience testing, A B testing. A recent one comes to mind that we ran for a national CPG brand, consumer packaged goods brand that was sold in all big box retailers. It's not Home Depot, it's the other one. And we were running a survey for a brand that was selling inside of there. And they were trying to analyze the potential perception of language around a new product that was going to be marketed in store. And this was a $10,000 test. I think we got 500 respondents. We were going for a 95% confidence interval. So even with 500 respondents at a $10,000 plus price point, you're still just getting directional forecasts of the future. You're not getting anything that is true or it's directionally predictive, but plenty of times when it hits reality, you don't get that result. So very costly, right? 10 grand, five figures. And, our agency ran this, but we didn't keep most of it, right? We passed through most of that to the survey respondents and the tooling and things like that. So it's just inefficient as a one-off. It needs to be very important before you deploy that kind of money and effort. And so, what if your business had an engine that could simulate those tests for a steep fraction of the cost? Right, you're talking, 50 cents for the number of tokens that you can, pass in and out to get the equivalent, of a $10,000 survey. And then, to your question a second ago, it's how you anchor that to your real-world data as to how much you can trust it. Right.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I think another really important feature here is the speed. Because how long did that actual test, the $10,000 plus test, take you guys to run? I'm gonna guess months. Yeah. Um,
Fortunately, the service we used is really fast. It's a number of days, but the planning that went into it because of the cost was multiple rounds, and then
mhm.
the analysis afterwards. So the survey itself was pretty fast, but wrapping the intensity because of the investment around it still drug it out for over a month.
Right. And so, you know, how much time will you save with synthetic tests? I mean, we don't have the specific answer for everyone right now, but it's a lot. You're going to go really quickly. I mean, you can get responses in moments, really.
I was gonna say, what if you could run 10 a day for free? I mean, that's the alternative.
Yeah.
That's the scale of the alternative, right?
All right. I feel like we've introed enough, and I want to move on to the actual value here. So, what we've done is we've created three separate scenarios inside make.com, automations that really cover the spread of what's possible in testing. And so, the first one that we're introing here is text based surveying. Jesse, what can you tell us about text based surveying?
Sure. Let me share the screen here. And really quickly, I'm going to give everyone an overview of what we built last time. We're using this make.com tool that Nick mentioned. It's a great no code and low code application that chains different apps and services together to create automation workflows, including AI powered automation workflows like we're talking about today. So, last episode, if you watched, you saw us build this persona generator. We take some criteria, we loop through it, and then we add it to a Google Sheet. I'm not going to dig into that in too much detail, but this is the Google Sheet where we're tracking these criteria of sex, age range, ethnicity, education level, and pizza engagement. Pizza engagement is because we were working with a fictional pop up pizza restaurant that I'd like to launch in the future. And so you'll see pizza as a theme throughout this because it's what we were working with. So we generated these, and then we built a second scenario that generates narratives. So we load in, that's this Google Sheets module here, of the narrative generator scenario. We load in all of the persona criteria. We then ask ChatGPT using a prompt to personify that into two paragraphs, and then we add that to our sheet. And you can see our narrative sheet here. We have exactly that: Dennis, Tiana, and Marisol. Marisol, as an example, I'm Marisol. I live just outside of Albuquerque, where the desert air still fills me with a sense of calm every morning. I'm 68 now, and after working for nearly 30 years as a hospital billing clerk, I finally slowed down a few years ago. Right? This is exactly what AI is great at, is simulating reality. And so we've given the AI context of what we want, and it is filling that context in. So now we have that. That was tutorial number one that we described and launched with the last full episode. Today, as Nick said, we're launching three new tutorials, and this is where we started. We said, okay, that's great to have some strategic kind of elements that we have used AI to brainstorm with and to codify. But what if we want to actually use those strategic elements in our planning? And so let's figure out how to ask questions of these synthetic personas. And this is the scenario we built for the first of our three tutorials here. One, you load the narratives, and then we're loading the questions, which we added a new tab called questions. And I just have a very simple, what's your favorite pizza topping? Let's add another one, like how many times per week do you go out to dinner? And something like what would cause you to visit a specific restaurant you saw advertised? Okay,
You
this is
got a
very free
typo in
form.
in the second one.
Oh no. How many times per week do you go out to dinner? Good thing is AI is very good at knowing what I intended, right?
Absolutely.
So anyway, we have three questions and we have three personas. And so we're going to run this. And just to show you really quickly this prompt, again, watch the full tutorial if you're interested in making this yourself. But you'll be provided a narrative in question. Please personify the narrative and answer accordingly. Output only a single object in clean JSON format. So there's some technical stuff. Don't be afraid if you're not technical enough to have a comfort with JSON. The AI actually writes it for you. It's just a way to write structured text. So don't let that scare you away. But that's how we process the narratives and questions and we get our answers. So let's run it. We should get 9 outputs because we have 3 personas and we have 3 questions. The developer out there, the technically astute, will notice this is a nested for loop for each of our narratives, loop through and ask each of our questions, which is why we get 9 outputs. And this is 9 right here. And just for the make.com crowd, make.com does price on operations, which is this count, and bandwidth. So you want to be mindful of this count here because that's what's going to determine the account level you have. And so let's look at our answers. And here we are, 9 answers. And we asked Dennis, what's your favorite pizza topping? Definitely sausage. It's hearty, no nonsense. Reminds me of the pies we used to have growing up. I like question 3. What would cause you to visit a specific restaurant? If they're offering a good deal or discount, that'll get my attention, especially if it's somewhere I can grab a beer and a decent meal without breaking the bank. Tiana, what would cause her to visit a restaurant if the ad shows something super crave-worthy, like gooey cheese pull or a creative pizza combo? I'm definitely intrigued. And then Marisol, if the place looked cozy and had a good story behind it, maybe run by a family or serving old recipes. So again, these are fairly I wouldn't say random, but they're not anchored to real world data because we built this in a fictional sense. But imagine that those prompts had the benefit of your real world data, then this is going to be very applicable to your business. So that's like the high level overview of text based testing. In the tutorial, we actually get into KPIs. So you can ask not just a simple question, but you can say, in this prompt, I could change it. I'm not going to run this, but just as an example, instead of this prompt in here saying you'll be provided a narrative and a question, you could say something like you'll be provided a KPI and an A version and a B version, and please predict the winner that the narrative would likely present, right? And then your answers are literally a synthetic A/B test of any variable you put into that input. So once you have an engine like this, you can do a lot depending on your needs.
Uh, yeah, all of this is great, and I want to add just a few extra points here. All of this we're offering for free to download, so you can download these scenarios from our website, notreplaceyet.ai. So check that out for sure. Check out the description, links there. And then also, we have on the website a prompts library where those prompts that Jesse is inputting into the ChatGPT module, you'll actually be able to grab those, copy and paste them in, and see really how we're constructing these queries over to OpenAI.
Yeah, and I would recommend if you do grab those prompts, put them back into ChatGPT and edit through there, right? Because it's not going to be exactly what you want to use. You could copy and paste it, but it won't. You likely don't have a pizza restaurant, but use the AI to iterate over the AI, right? And I did that too to create these prompts. I didn't start cold. I used AI to generate it.
Okay, I think that's the perfect place for us to move on to the next type of test, which is image testing. So, do you want to load that up and walk people through what we've done there?
Definitely, Nick. This example here, this text-based question asker and answerer, is what we modify for the subsequent tutorial, the second tutorial we're launching in conjunction with this episode. I actually dialed some pieces back out to show this more basic version of text. But the image example is just passing in new creative as a new message. So if you watch a tutorial, you'll see this developer message and how we craft it. This is the context or instruction we give the AI. Then we pass the name, narrative, and question in as the text content. And then you see we can add more messages. And so we added a few more. We added roll a user message, which is just a basic message in. And then we don't have any text content, but we can have a URL of an image. I don't have these images URLs queued up, but anything that's publicly visible on the web can be passed through. You can also actually load the image file and the data. There's an extra step to that we go into in the tutorial. But we added 3 images, right? 1, 2, 3. And then we changed this prompt to say you will be provided a narrative, a question, and 3 images. And then the questions were more like, and I'll clear these answers out here from our last experiment. The questions were more like these, like which of the provided images is more appealing to you? Why? Right? And so now you're getting into questions that that have an amount of context relative to your campaign or your initiative that goes beyond just a question, right? And we were able to do that because of the multimodal nature of these AI tools. And yeah, it's pretty easy and straightforward once you think about how to experiment with them.
One thing that comes to mind for me is you are talking about testing on images, and something that could be super valuable in the near future is testing on videos. And in my experience, you cannot do that yet. Have you seen anything where that's coming down the road?
I haven't used it myself. Gemini does say that they have video in. And I mean, if you think about it, video is just a series of still frames, right? So technologically speaking, breaking that apart, capturing, every few seconds or every few frames or whatever, it's just a context window question. But no, I haven't been using it. I see it as right on the horizon, though. Like right, very soon, this exact same tooling will be expanding to video and be even more useful because of it.
All right, and finally, one of the most important steps is to operationalize all of this. And so you've created a workflow to do exactly that. Do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, 100%. Do not sleep on the operationalization step.
Hmm.
If you spend the time to build out something that's functional, spend just a little more time to get this into your work stream because that's how it's going to really pay dividends in your efficiency and your preparedness, et cetera. So
And
this
actually,
workflow,
let me ask a quick question to help people out. What is it that you mean by operationalize? Because that's kind of a $10 word.
yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Operationalizing, in my mind, is putting this type of workflow and benefit, like the benefit you're trying to get, into the path you will be on in a given realistic workday, right? If you spend your day in Slack and Gmail, like many of us do, you don't want to have to go to a Google Sheet 4 times a week to find some obscure information, right? What if it can be surfaced to you? There's this idea in user experience called the golden pixel, and the golden pixel is the one closest to the user's mouse or the one that is the easiest to reach with your thumb or something. It's about being in the path. And so operationalizing this is about having the benefits surface to you rather than you having to go do work to get the benefit.
Ah, well put. And so talk us through what you have here on the screen because it seems like a lot.
Yeah, this is a 10-step automation, so it's a little more intense than the other ones, but it's just 10 of the same types of things, right? It's configuring a module and then purposefully moving the data and the information through it. So again, this is the 3rd tutorial of the launch, the 4th overall in our marketing series. And what I really wanted to do is have a Google folder, a Google Drive folder, which is this first module, and it monitors this for any new images that are uploaded. And so, I'm not going to step through every step, but I've figured, created this sample folder. I've authenticated that. You'll have to step through your own authentication. I've got a limit of 5 right now. That's fairly arbitrary. For each of those images that this finds, and this runs on a schedule like a cron job, so you can set it to every 15 minutes, I think is the default. Do keep in mind that will increase your operations, so you probably don't want to run this every 15 minutes if you don't expect something. you could maybe run it like once a day at 3 p.m. to check to see if there's any creative assets needing to be tested. So anyway, we monitor this shared folder. We loop through any images we find, and this is really important because you don't know how many images are going to be in there, right? Like we're trying to test 2 images or 4 images. With that limit, we wouldn't be testing more than 5 at this instance, but you could do 50 hypothetically. So we create an image array out of all of the images found, no matter how many there are. And then we use a specialized ChatGPT module in make.com, which is analyze images or their vision feature. And the reason you use that is because you can pass that array that you built in, you can pass it in as one variable rather than hard coding, like in example 2, we just went through hard coding 1 image, 2 image, 3. So this just makes it much more flexible. If you are not a technical user, this is not out of your reach. You just have to be a little okay getting out of your comfort zone, but you're not actually writing any code. You're not defining any variables manually. You're just using the platform, and I promise it's not as intimidating as it might seem. So we analyze those images. We actually, from the output, we get a text description of them. And so that's the way we're going to move forward to ask our synthetic personas to answer those questions. And so we now have a description of our images. We then load in our narratives, load in our questions, ask the question of the narrative. We also load in, you can look here, what the context is in this second AI call. It said you will be provided with 3 pieces of context: a synthetic persona, narrative, a question, and a description of images, little typo there, that were served to the persona. Please personify the persona based on the details contained in the narrative and answer the question to the best of your abilities. Please keep the answer to images. And see down here, we do not have to, oh, actually did that break? That might have broken when we copy this over. I'll fix it in just a second. But you see, you don't have to manually put those images in because we've already done that in the analyze image piece. So here we load the narratives, load in questions, we pass all of that, including the image descriptions, to a secondary prompt, and then we add the answers to our row. So we do still keep track of it, but then we also send ourselves an email. That's what these last 3 steps do. It builds all the context into one long string, one long text string, and then this final prompt says, wait for it, says you'll be provided with a document detailing survey questions sent to a synthetic persona, AI generated, with questions relating to a series of images that these personas were shown. A couple typos here. Your job is to understand these personas' responses and feelings about the images and write an email to Jesse, me, detailing the question answer results so that I can understand what these synthetic personas had to say about the image choice. And then in the Gmail field, we just simply pass that end result from that final 3rd AI call here into the email. So I'm going to pull up my email now. In fact, let's run it. First, I'm going to show you the 3 images. So if you haven't watched the last episode, well, if you have watched the last episode, you will have seen these images. These are the 3 that we're doing our tests on. So again, this synthetic or this fictional pizza restaurant that we wanted to launch, we did an archetypal investigation using our GPT, and it came up with the Explorer Magician or Magician Explorer. This Kalis here was like an artifact of AI. It's weird. It was in all the images, so that you can ignore that, but that's something that we would be cleaning up if this were real. So it made these 3. Magician Explorer archetype with the mountains and the kind of mystical vibe. We asked it to make an everyman iteration, and so it put a guy and a gal on a park bench at sunset. We gave it some location so it didn't bring the mountains back in. This was everyman,
showed
again,
up.
that weird Kalis AI artifact. And then my favorite, I think everyone's favorite, Kalis showed up here again too, but we did the Rebel Lover archetype combo. So experience heavenly pizza, find our pop-up, and taste pizza worth sinning for. Pretty intense. Her hand is backwards there. So, good job, AI. But those are the 3 images. So now let's paste. I'm going to put them in. Actually, I've already put them here into the Google Drive. All right, now I'm just going to run this. We have put all 3 of our images into the Google Drive. This module found them. That's that number 1. It created the array. That's that second operation. It has passed all 3 of the images in, and this call can take a couple I mean, not minutes, but like, I don't know, 20, 30, sometimes a little bit more. But, it's passing 3 images in, processing them, and following the instruction. So it got that. We can take a look here while it's making these other calls about the result. Mood and atmosphere. Mood is rebellious and edgy with a fiery background, right? So it got those in there and gave it to us. And then it stepped through, loaded in the questions. You can go see the answers. Let's see, it saved those answers. Which of the provided images is more appealing to you and why? Image 2 is more appealing. In fact, it looks like it got image 2 on all of them. So that is an interesting vibe. It's the simple joy of splitting a pizza with buddies at Marco's, low key on a sunny afternoon. So that everyman archetype was the one that really appealed to everyone. But again, to operationalize this, I don't want to have to go into a Google Sheet and like hunt and peck around this stuff. So just for that, let me show you the email that I received. Automated creative test results are in. That was a manual title that I made. But you can see, here's a quick summary of the synthetic persona feedback based on the image survey you ran. Preferred image, image 2. All 3 personas selected image 2 as the most appealing option. Their reasons consistently aligned with themes of warmth, simplicity, and familiar connection, right? The key takeaways by persona. And so it gives you some details. Why image 1 and 3 didn't resonate. The rebel archetype was too bold, edgy, or unrelatable. The magician fantasy was not mentioned directly, but no attraction was expressed, so it was kind of flat. And so you can take this, imagine iterating on it 2 or 3 times from here to dial this in for your business needs, and then you go about your day. And if you ever have things, if your role is creating content and creating creative assets, you can use this for yourself to be better informed when you present that to your team or when you suggest this to your client or whatever role you're in. If you have a team, if you are a manager and you have a creative team that is doing this, have them put their assets into the folder and you're just going about your day waiting for these emails to arrive. And so that's the long answer of what I mean when I say operationalization, because I just want to be doing my work. I don't want to have the distraction of having to find that stuff. And that's the real benefit of these tools is it can just like place it in the right place and time for you.
And I do want to add a little bit of color to some of the choices in there. The email aspect of that framework or that scenario is a bit arbitrary, right? Especially for those of you who are a bit less technical. Inside Make and inside other automation systems like it, you can choose the medium of how you return those types of results. So it could be SMS, it could be Slack, it could be a custom app, it can be many different things. And so what we want to do with this is actually show you ideas. We want to show you directionally what's possible. And there are so many other ways that it can be implemented.
Yeah, I think for me, email was the simplest, but I think I will build it out into Slack for myself. We could do that as Slack input, where images added to a channel actually then trigger that automation. Yeah, I mean, it really is how can it fit your needs. So we're here to not just make the fire for you, but teach you how to make fire. And so if you're interested in building that for yourself, do check out those full tutorials. Took a lot of time. They're about 30 minutes each, so they're really detail oriented. And so even if you're a beginner, don't feel intimidated. If you'd like to learn this stuff, this is a great place to start.
All right, I think that's a great place to bring this to a close now, and we have covered a ton. So what have we done? We have introed synthetic testing. We've walked through 3 different types of tests you could run. You should definitely check out the full tutorials, and if you haven't, please go back and check out part 1 because there's a ton of value inside that episode. And to that point, remember, this is only part 2. We have a ton more to say about AI and marketing in general. And as a sneak peek in part 3, we are going to dive deep into actually anchoring all of this, everything that we're talking about, to real world data. Jesse, you have any closing words for the fine people out there?
Yeah, all I would say is if you made it this far, thank you so much. Do give us a like if you learned something or take anything away. It really helps us out. Comment. We promise to read and respond to everything if anything particularly resonated with you, or if we got something wrong. Like we're learning too, and if we missed something, help us out. Do subscribe if you want to be alerted or you don't want to miss out. Like Nick said, we got a lot in the queue, in the pipeline. So if you're enjoying this, just wait. And then please also share. If you found this valuable, you think others can, please share it with someone, anyone, everyone in your network. Let them know that you're investing time in future fluency and that they should too. So that's all for today's show. Thanks again, and we will see you soon.